Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another exciting episode of Trigger Warning Radio. I am your host, the Kaiju Conservative. Citibank, ladies and gentlemen, one of the largest banks in the country, has thrown its hat into the gun control ring by instituting a new commercial firearms policy. Of course, this follows the corporate activism of corporations such as Dick's Sporting Goods and Walmart. Dick's Sporting Goods, by the way, they have, and Walmart, they have both refused to sell firearms to people under 21 years of age, and they have been sued in separate cases by people under 21 years of age, claiming that these companies are violating their constitutional rights. So Citibank, in that vein, released a new commercial firearms policy that I want to go through with you guys here today. I'm going to go ahead and leave the link in the description as well, so that way you guys can peruse it at your leisure. But I just want to kind of go over this a little bit. This is by the Executive Vice President of Global Public Affairs, Ed Skyler. So it starts out, for too many years, in too many places, our country has seen acts of gun violence that have resulted in heartbreaking losses. We're all too familiar with them, and there is no need to recount them here. Over the same amount of time, we have waited for our grief to turn into action and seen our nation adopt common sense measures that would help prevent firearms from getting into the wrong hands. That action has sadly never come, and as the weeks pass after the most recent mass shooting, it appears we are stuck in the same cycle of tragedy and inaction. Mainly because the left does not want a discussion on this. I've pointed this out many times. You know, other conservative commentators have pointed this out many times. The left's national conversation on gun control is, we ban guns, end of story. That's what they want. But Citibank continues. Mr. Skyler continues. He says, today our CEO announced Citi is instituting a new U.S. commercial firearms policy. It is not centered on an ideological mission to rid the world of firearms. Bullshit. That is not what we seek. Bullshit, again. There are millions of Americans who use firearms for recreational and other legitimate purposes, and we respect their constitutional rights to do so. Wow, there's just... the cognitive, you can feel the cognitive dissonance coming through in that paragraph, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Skyler continues, but we want to do our part as a company to prevent firearms from getting into the wrong hands. So our new policy centers around current firearm sales best practices that will guide those we do business with as a firm. Under this new policy, we will require new retail sector clients or partners to adhere to these best practices. Number 1, they don't sell firearms to somebody who hasn't passed a background check. Number 2, they restrict the sale of firearms for individuals under 21 years of age. And number 3, they don't sell bump stocks or high-capacity magazines. This policy will apply across the firm, including to small business, commercial, and institutional clients, as well as credit card partners, whether co-brand or private label. It doesn't impact the ability of consumers to use their Citi cards at merchants of their choice. Folks, let me ask you a question. Honestly, how long do you think that's going to remain true? Citibank has boldly come out against gun rights and against the Second Amendment. They're essentially dictating the way thousands of businesses across the country have to run their operations. Citibank, this is big government in the corporate world, is what this is, ladies and gentlemen. Citibank, if you are a gun store owner, for example, Citibank knows how to do your business better than you do. That's what they're saying here, folks. They're saying, we know better than you, and we are going to force this change on you if you want to continue to do business with one of the largest banks in the country. So how long do you think Citi is going to be able to resist locking out your credit card if you try to purchase at a merchant that does not follow their firearms policy, which is pretty vague and nebulous, folks? I mean, bump stocks are pretty clear. What's a high-capacity magazine? You know, how many rounds is a high-capacity magazine? Is it Is it 20 rounds? Is it 30 rounds? Is it 50? Is it 100? Is it 10? Is it 5? What is that criteria as defined by Citi? If I'm a business owner that does business with Citi and I'm looking at this, I'm very scared. I would be very scared, ladies and gentlemen. I would be very scared as to how this policy is going to change and morph over time, because it will change and morph over time, ladies and gentlemen. Citi is not going to stop with just trying to regulate the companies it does business with. It's not going to stop there. It's going to eventually move to regulating how its customers purchase at different retailers. They say it's not going to affect your ability to buy at whatever retailer you choose. For now, of course, is the unspoken criteria there. They may revisit this in a couple of months or a couple of weeks. And they may decide that, you know what? This isn't enough. We need to go further. We need to tell people how they're going to buy, if they're going to do business with us, if they're going to have an account with us. We need to tell them how they're going to spend their money and where they're going to spend their money, or they're not going to do business on this with us. What's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, if let's say a couple of months down the road, let's say Citibank decides to lock your credit card if you do business at an unapproved retailer that doesn't adhere to their firearm policy. What's going to happen then? What's going to happen when Citibank decides that they don't like your gun purchases, so they are going to lock you out of your cards and your accounts and take your money? It sounds conspiratorial. It sounds far-fetched. But it's really not when you think about it, because that is the goal of the left. The goal is control. Get guns out of the hands of the public. Get guns off the streets completely. That's liberal utopia. Get rid of guns completely. And what better way to do that than dictating how people spend their money and whether or not people can spend their money? You control somebody's money, you effectively control them. You control all of their actions. You get to decide what they can and cannot do if you control their money. If I am a Citi customer, if I have an account with Citibank, if I have a credit card with Citibank, I would seriously consider canceling those accounts, ladies and gentlemen, because there is no guarantee that you will have access to your money, to your line of credit in a couple of months or even a couple of weeks or at any point in the future. There is, and Citi even acknowledges that their policy can change in this announcement. The second to last paragraph says, we recognize that we don't have all the answers and that existing technology in our industry does not allow for a more targeted approach at points of sale. Key word there, existing technology. I'll guarantee you they are working on something like that. For that reason, we would like to convene those in the financial services industry and other stakeholders to tackle these challenges together and see what we can do. This approach has worked well in areas such as sustainability, where the Equator Principles ushered in a new era of environmentality and socially responsible financing practices. We hope to leverage collective action and to encourage responsible practices by all who sell firearms. As best practices evolve, we will update our policies accordingly. They are telling you right there, they will be changing this policy, folks. They are telling you what they are going to do. There's not a more targeted approach at points of sale because of existing technology. You really think they're not working on that technology right now? You really think that there's not an R&D team at Citibank right now testing how to determine who you can purchase from? You are hopelessly naive and you are an idiot if you think that that is not the case, ladies and gentlemen. And if this kind of thing catches fire among the other banks, it's going to be a bad time. to be an American, ladies and gentlemen, because if this goes unchallenged, if Citibank is allowed to do this, then other banks are going to follow suit. They're going to try and get some progressive leftist street cred that they think is going to help them in the business world. And it probably won't. It probably won't hurt them because they're so freaking huge. It's going to be impossible to hurt them. But other banks will follow suit. And if that happens, then we will essentially have corporations deciding what constitutional rights we can and cannot have. You think it's going to stop at gun control? You think it's really going to stop by determining best practices for selling firearms? You really think that's where it's going to stop? No, it's not going to stop there. It's going to move to other rights. Pretty soon, banks might demand access to your Facebook account in order to do business. And if they don't like what they see, they may cut you off from your funds. This cannot go unchallenged, ladies and gentlemen. This cannot stand. This is just about the worst possible thing that could happen. Because if big businesses get control of our rights, we will have no rights at all. We will simply be corporate stooges. And that cannot happen, ladies and gentlemen. We must resist this. If government has to get involved in order to protect our rights from corporations, that may be what needs to happen. I don't know. But we need to be looking at this. We need to be making some noise. We cannot let this slide. Otherwise, we will wake up tomorrow and wonder what the hell happened to the Constitution. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Both those things help me out quite a bit. Spread this around, ladies and gentlemen. Put it on Reddit, put it on Facebook, put it on wherever. Put it on Twitter, wherever. But tell people that this is happening. People need to know. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I will see you all next time.